Luna's eyes had always been different from the other elves on Kepler Station. While they saw beauty in the crystalline gardens and the smooth white walls of their biodomes, she saw possibilities in the mechanical hum of the ventilation systems and the endless expanse of stars beyond the observation decks. Her silver hair caught the light of the station's artificial sun as she moved through the corridors. But it was her violet eyes that told the real story of who she was. Those eyes held secrets that most elves could never understand. She had been born in the lower sectors, not in the high towers where the noble families lived. Her mother had worked in the hydroponic gardens, growing the food that kept the station alive. Her father had been a maintenance worker, someone who fixed the systems that everyone else took for granted. Luna had inherited their gift for understanding how things worked, but she had taken it much further than they ever could. She was 17 cycles old, which meant she was almost an adult by elf standards. But the other young elves treated her like she was something strange, something that did not quite belong. The station commander had always been suspicious of her. She had caught him watching her more than once when she was working in the tech division with Sarah. The commander was human, a man named Gregory who had been sent to oversee Kepler Station 5 years ago. He was efficient and cold, the kind of person who saw everything as a resource to be managed. He did not understand that elves had dreams and fears and hopes just like humans did. Sarah had been different. Sarah was one of the few humans on the station who treated elves as equals. She was older, perhaps 40 or 50 cycles, with dark hair and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled. Sarah had taken Luna under her wing when she started working in the tech division. She had shown her how the old Earth computers worked, how to crack security protocols, how to think about problems in ways that the official training never taught. Sarah had believed in Luna when nobody else did. The dragons had come to Luna in a way that she still did not fully understand. 3 years ago, she had been exploring the abandoned sectors of the station, the places where the original colonists had built their first homes. Deep in one of those old chambers, she had found 2 eggs. They were warm to the touch and covered in symbols that glowed faintly in the darkness. She had felt something calling to her from inside those eggs, a presence that was ancient and kind and impossibly powerful. She had brought them to the hibernation chamber that she had begun building in secret, using knowledge that Sarah had given her and materials that she had carefully stolen from the supply depot. When the eggs had hatched, it had been the most beautiful thing Luna had ever witnessed. Kes had emerged first, her small form barely the size of Luna's hand. She was silver like starlight, and when she opened her eyes, Luna felt like she was looking into another dimension. Kes had made a sound like wind chimes, and Luna had known instantly that they would be friends forever. Vex had taken longer. His egg was 3 times the size of Kes's egg, and when he finally broke through the shell, Luna understood that she was witnessing something that should not exist. Vex was not small. Even as a hatchling, his wings spanned wider than Luna was tall. His scales were midnight black, and his eyes burned with an intelligence that felt almost frightening. When Vex looked at Luna, she felt like he was looking into her soul, understanding everything about her. From that moment, she had known that Vex was not just a pet. He was a guardian, a protector, and something far more important than she could name. The months that followed had been about learning. Luna had spent every moment she could with her dragons in the hidden chamber deep below the station. She had learned to speak with them through a connection that was not words but something more primal and direct. Kes had taught her how to move with grace and precision. Vex had shown her things through their bond that no modern human or elf technology could explain. He had shown her memories of flying through cosmic storms and defending sacred places. He had shown her battles fought in the darkness of space and civilizations that had risen and fallen before Kepler Station was even a dream in the minds of its builders. Sarah had discovered the chamber one day. Luna had been terrified when she found the door to the hibernation chamber open, and Sarah standing there, staring at the 2 sleeping dragons. She had been sure that Sarah would report her to the commander, that everything would be taken away. But Sarah had simply closed the door quietly and turned to Luna with tears in her eyes. Sarah had told her something that day that changed Luna's understanding of everything. Sarah had told her that the dragons were not native to Kepler Station. They had come to the solar system thousands of years ago, before humans had even invented space travel. They had hidden themselves in the asteroid fields, in the deep places where no one would think to look. Sarah had told her that the original colonists had known about the dragons, had even had contact with them. But that knowledge had been lost over the generations, buried in the oldest archives of the station's records. Sarah had helped Luna learn everything she could about the dragons and about the history of Kepler Station. Together, they had recovered files from the oldest databases, Files that the station commander probably did not even know existed. Those files told a story of ancient agreements between dragons and humans, of protection and cooperation against threats that came from the darkness between the stars. Luna had felt her heart skip a beat when she understood what Sarah was trying to tell her. The dragons had chosen to reveal themselves to her for a reason. They were preparing for something. They were preparing for a threat that was coming. For months after that, Luna had continued her normal life, but everything had changed. She still worked in the tech division with Sarah. She still attended the educational sessions with the other young elves. She still pretended to be something she was not. But every moment that she could spare, she was in the hidden chamber with her dragons, learning, preparing, understanding. The day the message came was the day everything became real. Luna had been monitoring the communication systems, accessing files that she was not supposed to access. It was easy for her now, almost second nature. The station commander had upgraded the security protocols twice, but Sarah had shown her how to get past them. Sarah had taught her well. The message came from a deep space probe that had been sent into the asteroid field 3 years ago. It was supposed to be gathering data about mineral deposits and potential mining sites. But the latest data it sent back told a very different story. It had detected something massive moving through the asteroid field, something that was not natural, something that was not a ship that any known species had built. Luna had shown the data to Sarah, and she had watched as Sarah's face had gone pale. Sarah had called up ancient files and compared them to the new data. What they found made Luna's blood run cold. The thing moving through the asteroid field had the same energy signature as the objects described in the oldest records, objects that the ancient dragons had warned about, objects that had destroyed whole civilizations. The station commander knew. Luna discovered that he had known about the detection for 5 days before she even found out about it. He had ordered a complete news blackout. He had started secretly preparing evacuation shuttles. He had been planning to take the most important people off the station and leave everyone else behind. Luna had sat with her dragons that night, feeling their presence in her mind. She had felt Vex's ancient anger and Kess's gentle worry. They knew what was coming. They had been waiting for this moment for 1,000 years. Luna understood then what she had to do. She had to save the station. She had to protect the people she loved. She had to use everything that Sarah had taught her, and everything that her dragons had shown her. She had started planning that night. She had studied the old shuttle specifications and worked with Sarah to modify a small reconnaissance vessel. They had built weapon systems that combined human technology with dragon essence. Things that should not have been possible, but somehow worked. They had created shields and engines that could exceed the theoretical limits of what physics should allow. The days had passed slowly as Luna prepared. She had trained with her dragons, learning to move as one unit, learning to think as one consciousness. She had meditated with Vex and danced with Kess, understanding that they were no longer separate beings but something new, something powerful, something that the universe had not seen in a very long time. Sarah had warned her that the station commander might find out what she was doing. Sarah had told her to be careful, to move quietly, to not trust anyone else. But Luna knew that time was running out. The thing in the asteroid field was moving faster now. It would reach the station in days, maybe only hours. Luna had to be ready. The night she decided to take action, she had gone to say goodbye to Sarah. She had not known if she would come back from what she was about to attempt. Sarah had hugged her tight and told her that she believed in her. Sarah had told her that Luna was the bravest person she had ever known. Luna had held on to those words like they were a lifeline. Now, as she moved through the corridors toward the hibernation chamber, Luna felt the weight of everything on her shoulders. The fate of Kepler Station rested with her. The fate of ever. The hibernation chamber was exactly as Luna remembered it. The crystalline beds glowed softly in the darkness, casting blue and purple light across the metal walls. Her 2 dragons lay perfectly still, their bodies frozen in the deep sleep that would keep them alive for years if necessary. Luna's fingers trembled slightly as she approached the control panel. She knew every button, every sequence, every detail of this system. She had built it herself, piece by piece, over 3 years of careful work and stolen time. She input the sequence that would wake her dragons. The hibernation chamber began to hum with energy. The crystalline bed started to glow brighter, and Luna watched as the first traces of movement appeared in Kess's small form. Her silver scales caught the light, reflecting it like mirrors. Kess's eyes opened slowly, glowing with a violet light that matched Luna's own eyes. The small dragon stretched her wings, making a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. She lifted her head and looked directly at Luna. and Luna felt the familiar warmth of their connection flooding through her mind. Kes climbed down from the crystalline bed with surprising grace for such a small creature. She glided through the air toward Luna, her wings beating softly. Luna reached out and let the small dragon land on her shoulder, her tiny claws gripping Luna's clothing gently. Kes rubbed her scaled head against Luna's cheek, and Luna could feel the small dragon's excitement. Kes knew something was happening, something important. Vex was taking longer to wake. His massive body was still mostly still on the crystalline bed, but Luna could see his eyes flickering beneath his scaled eyelids. She moved to the control panel and increased the wake-up frequency slightly. She knew that Vex needed more power to come out of hibernation because of his size. The chamber responded to her adjustments, and the humming sound grew louder and more intense. Slowly, Vex's massive wings began to move. They unfolded like the opening of a mountain range, spreading across the chamber until they nearly touched the walls on both sides. His midnight black scales caught the light of the hibernation chamber and seemed to absorb it, making him look like a living shadow. His eyes opened, and they glowed like supernovas, burning with ancient knowledge and power. Vex lifted his head and let out a sound that was somewhere between a roar and a song. It was a sound that Luna felt in her bones. The large dragon climbed down from the crystalline bed with surprising grace for such a massive creature. He moved toward Luna, and she stood perfectly still, waiting. Vex was the size of a small spacecraft, but he moved with the elegance of a dancer. He lowered his enormous head until his scaled snout was just a few inches from Luna's face. She looked directly into his glowing eyes, and the connection between them intensified 100-fold. Visions flooded through Luna's mind. She saw the asteroid field and the ship moving through it with terrible purpose. She saw the weapon systems and the scanning arrays. She saw the dark intention of whatever was piloting that massive vessel. Vex showed her memories of ancient battles, of battles fought in the void of space against creatures that should not exist. He showed her the sacrifices that the dragons had made, the civilizations they had protected, the worlds they had saved. He showed her why he had been waiting so long for Luna to come to him. The connection between them grew so intense that Luna felt like she might lose herself in Vex's ancient consciousness. But Kes was there, her smaller presence providing balance and stability. Kes held Luna's consciousness anchored to herself, preventing her from drifting too far into Vex's memories. Luna understood then why she needed both dragons. They were not just two separate beings. Together they formed something complete and whole. The chamber door suddenly opened. Luna spun around, her heart jumping into her throat. She expected to see station security or the commander or someone coming to stop her. But instead it was Sarah. Sarah stood in the doorway, her dark eyes wide, her hand held up in a peaceful gesture. Luna felt a moment of panic. Sarah was not supposed to know the exact moment she was waking the dragons. They had agreed that Sarah would stay in the tech division to monitor communications and keep the commander distracted. But Sarah's expression was not one of surprise or disapproval. Sarah looked determined. Sarah looked like she had made a decision and was committed to it completely. Sarah stepped inside the chamber and let the door close behind her. Vex's enormous head turned toward her, and Luna prepared herself to feel the dragon's reaction. But instead of fear or aggression, she felt only calm acceptance from Vex. The large dragon recognized Sarah. Somehow Luna understood through their connection that Vex had known Sarah was coming. Perhaps he had sensed it through some power that Luna did not yet understand. Sarah moved forward slowly, making no sudden movements. She walked right up to Vex and placed her small human hand on his massive scaled chest. Luna watched in amazement as Sarah closed her eyes and Vex closed his eyes too. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of the hibernation systems gradually powering down. When Sarah opened her eyes again, she looked at Luna with an expression that was both sad and determined. She spoke quietly, but her voice carried weight and meaning. Sarah told Luna that she had to tell her something important. Sarah had been keeping a secret for a very long time. Sarah had come to Kepler Station as part of a research team, but her real purpose had been different. Her real purpose had been to find the dragons and to protect them if they were ever found. Sarah was part of an ancient human organization that had carried the knowledge of the dragons forward through the centuries. When Luna had first brought her to the hibernation chamber, Sarah had known exactly what Luna had found. Sarah told Luna that the thing moving through the asteroid field was not something unknown. It was something that the ancient records called a harvester. Harvesters were machines created by a long-dead alien species to collect resources and destroy civilizations that got in their way. The ancient dragons had fought harvesters before, thousands of years ago. They had driven them away from this sector of space, but apparently the harvesters had been destroyed or had moved on, because no one had seen one for a very long time. Luna asked Sarah how she could know all of this. How could she be part of an organization that had kept this secret for so long? Sarah smiled sadly and told her that there were humans in every sector of space, in every station and every settlement, who carried the old knowledge forward. They were the descendants of the original dragon keepers, the humans and other species who had made the ancient alliance with the dragons. Sarah had trained her entire life for the moment when the dragons would be found again. Sarah told Luna something else that made her blood run cold. The station commander was not just planning to evacuate the important people. The commander was planning to sell the location of Kepler Station to the harvester. The commander was planning to trade the entire station and everyone in it for his own safety, and a substantial payment in alien technology. Sarah had found evidence of the communications in the secured files. The commander was a traitor. Luna felt Vex's ancient anger surge through her connection with him. She felt Kess's gentle sadness. Both dragons understood the weight of what Sarah was telling them. They had fought betrayal before. They had seen civilizations destroyed because someone had chosen personal gain over the safety of others. Sarah told them that she had already prepared the shuttle. She had completed all of the modifications that she and Luna had planned. The weapon systems were loaded and ready. The shields were charged. The engines would take them beyond the theoretical limits of what physics should allow. Sarah had also done something else. She had created a backup of all the station's data, everything that the commander had been trying to hide. She had it loaded onto the shuttle in encrypted files that could not be traced. Luna asked Sarah what she was planning to do. Sarah told her that she was coming with Luna on the shuttle. She was not staying behind. She could not stay behind and pretend that she did not know what the commander was planning. Sarah had already made peace with that decision. She had nothing left on Kepler Station that mattered more than protecting her dragons and her adopted home. Luna embraced Sarah, and Sarah held her tight. Luna felt the tears on Sarah's face mixing with her own tears. They had both made their choices. They were committed now to a path that would change everything. Vex lowered his massive head toward Sarah, and Sarah reached up and touched the scales on his forehead. Luna felt the connection between them strengthen. Vex was accepting Sarah as part of their unit. Kess flew down from Luna's shoulder and landed on Sarah's arm, her small form looking tiny next to the human woman. Sarah smiled despite her tears. The three of them moved quickly toward the maintenance tunnels. Vex's enormous body scraped against the metal walls, but there was no one else in these lower sections to hear the sound. Luna led the way. Using the knowledge of Kepler Station's layout that she had spent years gathering, they passed through old storage areas and abandoned sections, moving ever closer to the shuttle bay. As they moved, Luna felt the presence of her dragons surrounding her. She felt the weight of their ancient knowledge and their commitment to this moment. She felt Sarah's determination and her courage. Together, the three of them formed something that was greater than the sum of their parts. The shuttle bay doors loomed ahead like the mouth of some enormous beast. Luna could see the darkness of space beyond the reinforced windows, the endless expanse of stars and asteroids that surrounded Kepler Station. Shuttle 7 sat in its designated berth, looking small and fragile against the vast emptiness outside. Luna's hands trembled slightly as she entered the security code that would grant them access to the bay. The code that Sarah had given her worked perfectly. The doors to the bay slid open without making a sound. Vex's massive body was a problem. The shuttle had been designed for small reconnaissance crews, maybe 4 or 5 humans or elves at most. Vex was easily 10 times the size of any of them. Luna watched as Sarah moved toward the dragon and placed her hand on his scaled shoulder. Sarah whispered something to Vex that Luna could not hear. Vex closed his enormous eyes and seemed to fold in on himself. His massive form somehow compressed and twisted in ways that should have been impossible, like he was made of liquid shadow instead of solid scales. By the time he was done, Vex was small enough to fit through the shuttle's cargo hatch, though his presence still filled the entire vessel. Luna had never fully understood the extent of Vex's powers. He could do things that defied the laws of physics that she had learned in school. Sarah had told her that the dragons were not entirely physical beings. They existed partially in what she called the quantum spaces, places between dimensions where the normal rules of reality did not apply. That explained so much about Vex's behavior and abilities. Luna helped Kess into the cargo bay first. The small dragon glided easily through the air, her silver form reflecting the light of the shuttle's internal systems. Then Luna guided Vex through the hatch, watching as his enormous form settled into the cargo hold like mist settling into a valley. His eyes glowed softly in the darkness, watching Luna and Sarah move through the shuttle. Sarah took the pilot's seat with the confidence of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. Her fingers moved across the control panel with precision and grace. Luna moved to the co-pilot's seat and began entering the startup sequence that she had learned. The shuttle's engines hummed to life, a sound that made Luna's heart beat faster. This was really happening. They were really going to do this. Luna opened the communication channel to the station and heard the familiar voice of Control Center Operator. The operator asked for Shuttle 7's destination and purpose. Luna had prepared for this moment. She knew exactly what to say. She used the authorization code that Sarah had given her, the code that belonged to a research project that officially existed but had been inactive for 5 years. The code worked. The control center accepted their flight plan without question. The shuttle bay doors began to open fully. Luna could feel the electromagnetic field that held the atmosphere inside the station, keeping the air from escaping into the vacuum of space. The shuttle moved forward slowly, inching toward the open bay and the darkness beyond. Luna watched the docking clamps release one by one. The shuttle was free. Sarah accelerated the engines gently at first. The shuttle moved out into the darkness of space, away from Kepler Station, away from the safety of the domes and the predictability of life inside the station. Luna watched the station shrink in the rear-view screen as they climbed away from it. She felt a moment of profound sadness looking at the station that had been her home for her entire 17 cycles of life. She was leaving it behind, perhaps forever. But there was no time for sadness. Sarah's hands moved across the controls, and the shuttle's acceleration increased dramatically. The small ship was built for speed and maneuverability, and Sarah was pushing it to its limits. The asteroid field spread out before them like a minefield, thousands of rocks of varying sizes floating in the darkness. Sarah navigated through them with incredible skill, weaving the shuttle between asteroids that could have crushed them if they made one wrong move. Through their connection, Luna felt Vex and Kess working with Sarah. The dragons were using their consciousness to help guide the shuttle, to predict the movements of the asteroids before they happened, to help Sarah see paths through the chaos that human eyes alone could not perceive. Luna added her own consciousness to the mix, creating a unified awareness that was more powerful than any of them could have achieved alone. Luna accessed the shuttle's sensors and began scanning the asteroid field. She was looking for the harvester, trying to locate it in the chaos of rocks and ice. The sensors were old and not as sophisticated as she would have liked, but Sarah and she had upgraded them as much as possible. Finally, she found what she was looking for, a massive energy signature, something that was definitely not natural. Moving through the asteroid field from the far side of the system, Luna reported the location to Sarah. Sarah adjusted their course to intercept the harvester. The shuttle climbed to a higher velocity, threading between asteroids at speeds that should have torn the vessel apart, but it did not. Luna understood that the dragon essence that they had woven into the shuttle's systems was protecting them, bending the laws of physics in their favor. Just like Vex bent those laws for his own body, the harvester came into view on the forward screens. Luna's breath caught in her throat. The thing was massive, easily the size of a small moon. Its hull was covered in scanning arrays and weapons systems. It looked like a mechanical nightmare, something designed by an intelligence that had no concept of aesthetics or beauty. It only understood function and power. It only understood how to take what it wanted and destroy anything that got in its way. The harvester detected their approach. Its weapon systems began to track the shuttle. Luna watched as the energy signatures on the scanner spiked violently. The harvester was preparing to fire. Sarah rolled the shuttle to port, diving beneath the harvester's initial burst of weapons fire. The energy blast passed overhead, missing the shuttle by what felt like mere meters. Sarah pulled the shuttle into a sharp climb, accelerating toward the harvester's main body. This was not the plan that Luna and Sarah had discussed. Luna realized that Sarah was not trying to hide from the harvester or evade it. Sarah was flying directly at it. Luna felt Vex's excitement surge through their connection. The dragon understood what Sarah was doing. She was giving them the best angle of attack. Luna activated the shield generators. The dragon essence that they had woven into the shuttle's systems flared to life, creating a barrier of energy around the small vessel. The harvester fired again, trying to hit the shuttle with everything it had. The blast struck the shields and bounced away, dissipating harmlessly into space. The shield generators glowed with a light that was part human technology and part dragon magic, a combination that should not have been possible but was absolutely real. Sarah pushed the shuttle closer, weaving through the Harvester's weapons fire with movements that seemed to defy physics itself. Luna worked with her to navigate, using her knowledge of the shuttle's capabilities and her connection to the dragons to predict what would happen next. Kes sang a sound that seemed to harmonize with the vibration of the shields. Vex projected a presence that was like ancient thunder, a force that made reality itself seem to bend around them. The Harvester began to adjust its targeting algorithms. Luna realized that it was learning. It was adapting to their tactics. She accessed the backup computer systems that Sarah had prepared for exactly this kind of situation. She started running counter-programs trying to disrupt the Harvester's artificial intelligence before it could fully adapt to their attacks. Sarah found the weak point in the Harvester's defenses. It was exactly where Vex had shown Luna it would be. A gap in the overlapping shield generators created by some flaw in the Harvester's design. Sarah flew the shuttle directly toward that gap, accelerating to maximum speed. The Harvester fired one more time, trying to stop them before they could reach the weak point. But Vex and Kes were ready. The dragons channeled their essence into the shield generators. The shields flared so bright that Luna had to squint to look at them. The Harvester's final blast struck the shields and dissipated completely. The energy that the Harvester had tried to use against them was absorbed and redirected, flowing back at the massive ship like a wave returning to the ocean. The shuttle pierced through the weak point in the Harvester's shields. Luna saw the defensive grid collapse as they passed through it. She worked frantically at the controls, trying to navigate the shuttle into the Harvester's main power core. She could feel Vex and Kes working with her, their consciousness guiding her movements, helping her see through the chaos and darkness. The shuttle penetrated deep into the Harvester's internal structure. Alarms began to sound throughout the small vessel. But Luna was not afraid. She was connected to her dragons and to Sarah. They were united in this moment, working as one consciousness with multiple bodies. Luna activated the data virus that Sarah had prepared. It was something that combined human programming knowledge with dragon essence, a weapon that should not exist but did. The virus flowed into the Harvester's computer systems like liquid fire, seeking out the artificial intelligence that controlled the massive ship and beginning to destroy it from the inside. The shuttle drifted through the debris field of the destroyed Harvester, moving slowly and carefully through the wreckage of what had been a massive and terrifying machine. Luna felt exhausted in a way that was deeper than just physical tiredness. Her connection with Vex and Kes was still strong, but it was like they were all recovering from an enormous expenditure of energy. Even Kes's usual cheerful presence seemed subdued and thoughtful. Sarah was silent at the pilot's controls, her hands still gripping the armrests of her seat. She was staring out at the destruction they had created, the death of the Harvester floating around them in pieces of scorched metal and crystalline components. Luna could see tears on Sarah's face, but she could not tell if they were tears of victory or tears of something more complicated. Luna finally broke the silence. She asked Sarah what happened to all the people on Kepler Station. If the Harvester had already sent its position to the station commander. She asked if they had already been betrayed. Sarah wiped her tears away and turned to look at Luna. Sarah's expression was complicated, mixing sadness with something that might have been pride or might have been resignation. Sarah told Luna that she had anticipated the commander's betrayal. Sarah had already planted false coordinates in the communication systems. When the commander had sent the station's location to the Harvester had received incorrect information. The Harvester had been flying toward empty space, toward coordinates where nothing existed. Sarah had given them time to deal with the threat before it arrived at Kepler Station. Luna felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The people on Kepler Station were safe. They had done what they set out to do. The station was saved. But Luna also understood that everything had changed. Sarah could not go back to Kepler Station. If she did, she would be arrested for sabotaging the communication systems and for helping Luna steal a shuttle. Even worse, if the commander realized that Sarah knew about his betrayal, he would have her killed. They both understood this without saying it out loud. Sarah opened the communication channel and sent a message to Kepler Station. She used a code that only a few people would recognize. She told them that there was a traitor in command. She told them to access the secured files that she had uploaded to the backup servers. She told them to look for evidence of communications with an alien ship, and then she shut down the communication system so that no one could trace the message back to their location. Luna watched as Sarah made these decisions. She saw the woman she had come to think of as a mentor and a friend, cutting off her own escape route home. Sarah was committing herself completely to this mission. Sarah was choosing Luna and the dragons over the safety and comfort of returning to Kepler Station as a hero. The shuttle's sensors picked up another signal. Luna's heart jumped into her throat. For a moment, she thought that the harvester had not been completely destroyed, that it was sending some kind of distress signal. But as she examined the sensor data more carefully, she realized that this was a different signal entirely. It was an old signal, something that had been dormant or hidden. It was coming from deep within the asteroid field, from a location that was only a few days away at the shuttle's maximum velocity. Luna showed the signal to Sarah. Sarah's face went pale as she examined the data. Sarah told Luna that she recognized this signal. She had read about it in the oldest records of the Dragon Keeper organization. This signal matched the description of an ancient dragon sanctuary, a place where the dragons had built a refuge long before Kepler Station was even founded. The sanctuary was supposed to be hidden, protected by technology that no human or elf had ever been able to fully understand. Luna felt Vex's consciousness surge through their connection. The large dragon had sensed something, some kind of recognition of the signal. Vex wanted to go to the sanctuary. He wanted to find this place from his ancient past. Luna could feel his emotions swirling through her, ancient memories mixing with present-day awareness. Vex wanted to go home. Kes added her own feelings to the connection. The small dragon wanted to follow Vex, wanted to see this place that Vex remembered. Kes had never even been to the sanctuary. She had been born in the egg that Luna had found, created in a way that Vex was not. Vex was ancient, older than Kepler Station, older than human civilization as Luna knew it. Vex was a link to a past that went back thousands of years. Sarah adjusted their course toward the signal. The shuttle's engines hummed as they accelerated into the asteroid field, following a path that led deeper into the rocks and ice. The journey took 3 days. 3 days of flying through the darkness of space. 3 days of Luna and Sarah learning more about each other and about the dragons. During those 3 days, Sarah told Luna about her life before she came to Kepler Station. Sarah had been born on Earth, in a place called Japan. Sarah had grown up in a family that had been keeping the knowledge of the dragons safe for over 30 generations. Sarah's entire family had been dragon keepers, scientists and researchers who understood that the old stories about dragons were not just myths, they were historical records of real events. Sarah told Luna about the organization that she belonged to. There were dragon keepers scattered throughout human space, working in research stations and mining operations and cultural centers. They were all connected through an ancient network that had been maintained since the days when dragons had openly walked among humans. They were all waiting for the day when the dragons would return to interact with humanity again. They all believed the day was coming, that the dragons would reveal themselves and ask for human assistance in protecting the galaxy against threats that no single species could face alone. Luna told Sarah about her life before the dragons. She told Sarah about her parents and their simple lives in the lower sectors. She told Sarah about how different she had always felt from the other elves, how she had never understood why she was so fascinated with how things worked, why she spent her time studying machines instead of dancing in the gardens or reading poetry in the libraries like the other young elves did. Sarah smiled and told Luna that she was different because she was meant to be different. Sarah told her that Luna was the product of an ancient prophecy that had been written in the oldest Dragon Keeper records, a prophecy that spoke of an elf who would be born on Kepler Station, an elf who would find the dragons and awaken them in time to prevent a catastrophe. Luna was that elf. The prophecy had named her, not directly, but in ways that were undeniable once you read the ancient texts with the right understanding. Luna felt a strange mixture of emotions when Sarah told her this. On one hand, she felt the weight of destiny pressing down on her shoulders. On the other hand, she felt a sense of purpose that she had never experienced before. She was meant to be here. She was meant to do this. Everything that had happened in her life had led to this moment. Finally, on the morning of the 4th day, the sanctuary came into view. Luna had no words to describe what she saw. The sanctuary was built into the largest asteroid in the field, but it was not just carved into the rock, it was grown into it. Crystalline structures rose from the surface of the asteroid like buildings made of light and ice. There were spires and domes and intricate pathways connecting different sections. The entire structure glowed with a faint bioluminescent light that painted the darkness of space with colors that had no names. Vex made a sound that Luna had never heard before. It was a sound of joy and recognition and coming home all mixed together. The large dragon's presence in her mind became almost overwhelming. She felt memories flowing through their connection, Memories of flying through these halls, of meeting other dragons in chambers that had been empty for thousands of years, of gathering with other ancient beings to make plans and share wisdom. Kes flew to the viewport and pressed her small head against the glass, staring at the sanctuary with wonder in her glowing eyes. The small dragon was excited in a different way than Vex. Kes was fascinated by this place that was new to her, fascinated by the history and power that radiated from the crystalline structures. Sarah guided the shuttle toward a landing bay that was clearly marked by ancient symbols. The symbols corresponded to a language that Sarah seemed to recognize. She told Luna that the symbols were a greeting, an invitation to enter the sanctuary. She told Luna that the dragons had been waiting for them. This sanctuary had been built to last forever, waiting for the day when dragons and their human allies would return to it in their moment of greatest need. The shuttle touched down gently on the landing bay. The external sensors showed that the atmosphere inside the sanctuary section was breathable by both humans and elves. The temperature was cool and comfortable. It was as if the sanctuary had been sealed just yesterday instead of thousands of years ago. Luna, Sarah, and the two dragons prepared to leave the shuttle and explore what waited for them inside the ancient dragon sanctuary. Luna could feel that this moment was the beginning of something much larger than she had imagined. The adventure was not over. It was only just beginning. The airlock doors hissed open, revealing a corridor of crystalline structures that seemed to pulse with a gentle inner light. Luna stepped through first, her violet eyes adjusting quickly to the soft illumination. The air smelled different from anything she had ever experienced before. It was not unpleasant, but it carried a faint sweetness mixed with something metallic and ancient. Sarah followed close behind her hand resting on a small device that she had retrieved from the shuttle. The device looked like a handheld scanner, but Sarah explained that it was actually a Dragon Keeper artifact, something that would help them navigate the sanctuary and interpret its systems. Vex and Kes emerged from the airlock together. Vex's massive form had to compress again to fit through the narrow opening, but the moment he stepped into the sanctuary, he seemed to expand back to his full size. The walls of the corridor stretched upward impossibly high, and Luna realized that the sanctuary was much larger on the inside than it had appeared from the outside. This was not just a simple refuge carved into an asteroid. This was an entire world contained within the crystalline structure, vast and complex and full of wonders that Luna could not begin to comprehend. The floor beneath their feet was smooth and warm, almost alive with energy. Luna could feel vibrations running through the crystalline surface, rhythmic pulses that seemed to synchronize with her heartbeat and the beating of her dragon's wings. It was as if the sanctuary itself was aware of their presence and was welcoming them. Kes flew up and down the corridor with joy, performing acrobatic movements that seemed to delight in the strange physics of this place. Sarah consulted her handheld device and pointed deeper into the sanctuary. She told Luna that the device was detecting an active control center somewhere ahead. The device had been dormant for thousands of years, but it was starting to activate now in response to the presence of the dragons. Sarah told Luna that this was exactly what she had hoped would happen. The sanctuary had been waiting for this moment, waiting for the dragons to return so that it could awaken fully. They moved deeper into the sanctuary, following corridors that seemed to change direction of their own accord. Sometimes the corridors led upward at steep angles. Sometimes they seemed to curve through three-dimensional space in ways that made Luna's head spin. When she tried to trace their path, the walls around them began to display images and symbols. Some of the symbols meant nothing to Luna, but others made a strange kind of sense. They seemed to resonate with memories that were not quite her own, memories that she was accessing through her connection with Vex. They passed through vast chambers that were clearly meant to hold meetings of hundreds or thousands of dragons. They passed through libraries where crystalline tablets were stored, tablets that glowed with information written in languages that had been dead for millennia. They passed through vast hangars where ancient spacecraft sat waiting, still powered by dragon essence, still capable of flight after so many centuries of silence. Finally, they reached the control center. The chamber was enormous, a space that seemed to go on forever in every direction. At the center of the chamber was a massive control console, far larger than anything Luna had ever seen. The console was covered in crystalline projections and controls, and every surface glowed with gentle light. Vex moved forward and placed his enormous head against the central projection. The moment he made contact, the entire chamber blazed to life. Holographic displays appeared in the air all around them, showing star maps and data streams and communications records. Luna watched as three-dimensional representations of ancient battles unfolded before her eyes. She saw dragons fighting against impossible odds. She saw civilizations being protected. She saw the last moments of the galaxy's golden age when dragons and humans and 1,000 other species had worked together in peace and harmony. Vex showed Luna and Sarah images of the time before Kepler Station existed, before humans had even begun their expansion into space. Vex showed them the final Great Dragon Council, the gathering where the dragons had decided to withdraw from active involvement in galactic affairs. The dragons had been tired. Their civilizations had been destroyed by the harvesters. Their numbers had been reduced to nearly nothing. They had decided to sleep, to hide, to wait for a time when they might be needed again. Sarah was moving through the control center now, activating systems that had been dormant for centuries. The handheld device she carried seemed to be interfacing with the sanctuary's main systems, granting her access to archives of information that no human had accessed in thousands of years. Sarah told Luna that she was downloading everything. She was taking copies of the dragon's entire historical record, their technology, their science, their medicine, their art, everything. If something happened to the sanctuary, at least this knowledge would be preserved. Vex released his head from the control console and turned to look at Luna and Sarah. Through the connection, Vex shared something that made both of them catch their breath. Vex showed them his memories of the discovery of the Dragon Keeper organization. Vex showed them the ancient humans who had come to the dragons and asked to help preserve their knowledge. Vex showed them the partnership that had endured for thousands of years. Humans and dragons working together to maintain the sanctuary and keep the knowledge safe. Sarah knelt down in the crystalline chamber and bowed her head. She was crying, tears of joy and sadness mixing together. Sarah told Luna that her entire life, everything that her family had done, everything that she had trained for, had been to reach this moment, to stand in the dragon sanctuary and to help reawaken the dragons in their moment of greatest need. Sarah felt like she was completing a quest that had taken her family 30 generations to accomplish. Luna understood then what she had to do next. She accessed the sanctuary's communication systems through her connection with Vex. She opened a channel to Kepler Station, careful to encrypt the message in a way that could not be traced. She told the people on Kepler Station that the threat was over. She told them that a harvester had been destroyed and they were safe. She told them that they would receive information about their station commander soon, and that they should prepare themselves for change. But Luna also told them something more. She told them that the universe was larger and more wonderful, and more complicated than they had ever imagined. She told them that dragons existed, that the old myths and legends were based in historical truth. She told them that the time was coming when all the different species of the galaxy would need to work together again, just as they had in the ancient days. She told them that Kepler Station was no longer just an isolated colony. It was part of something much greater. It was part of the rebirth of the galactic community. The communication went out across the communication networks. Luna imagined it spreading through the human colonies, through the elf settlements, through every station and outpost in known space. She imagined people receiving the message and wondering if it was a joke or a dream. But some people would know the truth. Some of the dragon keepers scattered throughout human space would recognize the significance of the message. They would begin to prepare. Vex showed Luna something else through their connection. He showed her other sanctuaries hidden throughout the galaxy, each one waiting for dragons to return and awaken them. He showed her other ancient species beginning to stir from their long sleep, responding to the activation of this first sanctuary. He showed her a future where the galaxy was no longer asleep, where ancient powers were awakening, where the great age of cooperation between the different intelligent species would begin again. Kes flew up to Luna's shoulder and made her wind chime sound. The small dragon was happy. She was excited about what was coming. She felt the future unfolding and she wanted to be part of it, wanted to help shape what came next. Sarah finished downloading the information from the sanctuary's archives. She stood up and looked at Luna with eyes that were full of purpose. Sarah told Luna that they could not go back to Kepler Station. Not yet. There was too much to do. There were other dragon keepers scattered throughout human space who needed to know what had happened. There were other sanctuaries that needed to be found and activated. There was a whole galaxy that needed to be warned and prepared for the changes that were coming. Luna nodded. She understood. She had known, deep in her heart, that her journey was only beginning. She was no longer just the strange elf girl from Kepler Station. She was something more now. She was a dragon keeper, just like Sarah. She was a guardian of ancient knowledge and ancient power. She was part of something that stretched back thousands of years and would stretch forward into the future. For thousands of years more, the three of them walked back toward the shuttle together, Vex and Kess and Sarah and Luna, united by purpose and bond and a sense of destiny that was larger than any of them individually. As they reached the shuttle and began to prepare for departure, Luna looked back at the crystalline structures of the sanctuary. She felt the presence of all the ancient dragons who had called this place home. She felt their approval and their hope.